It was supposed to be the adventure of a lifetime, right? A journey to the edge of the world to see breathtaking glaciers and, penguins. But instead, it turned into an absolute fight for survival against a microscopic threat. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're tracking the terrifying reemergence of an ancient killer. We're talking about a pathogen that's basically been hiding in the shadows for centuries, only to suddenly plunge a modern polar expedition into complete chaos.
Hell, you curious about health? Hell, wanna learn without the stress? Hell, welcome to Cartoon Clinic.
Okay, let's dive right into this mystery. Picture this. It's April 2026. You've got 147 passengers, retirees, scientists, explorers, all aboard the MV Hondius. It's a Dutch polar expedition vessel heading straight for Antarctica. And then suddenly, out in the middle of the ocean, an entirely unforeseen nightmare just unfolds. People start dying. And it's not from a storm. It's not a common stomach bug. It's from a virus that scientists have literally feared for decades. A virus with no known cure. But honestly, the absolute most terrifying part, the ship was stranded. There was nowhere to dock, no escape. When we look at the timeline, it really reveals the terrifying speed of this outbreak. So they depart Ushuaia, Argentina, that's the southernmost city in the world, on April 1st. By April 6th, just 5 days later, the first passenger falls ill. At first, it just seems like the flu or maybe food poisoning. But then, by April 11th, a 70-year-old Dutch man goes into severe respiratory distress. And remember, there is no intensive care unit on board. He tragically dies right there on the ship. The rest of the passengers? They're eventually locked inside their cabins, terrified, trapped at sea, while this deadly invisible force just stalks the corridors. Section 2. How Hantavirus attacks. The biological phase. To really understand how this cruise ship outbreak became so lethal, we need to zoom in microscopically and look at the biological cascade. So hantavirus is perfectly adapted to live inside rodents, like deer mice, and it doesn't cause them any harm at all. But when humans breathe in microscopic particles from infected rodent droppings or urine, and get this often without ever even seeing a mouse, it triggers this massive, confused war inside our immune system. After a 1 to 8 week incubation period where you just have mild flu-like symptoms, patients enter what doctors call the cardiopulmonary phase. Your capillaries, which are the absolute tiniest blood vessels in your body, suddenly become porous and start to leak. Your lungs catastrophically fill with fluid. In the worst cases, you essentially drown from the inside out within just 48 hours. 50%. Take a second to let that sink in. The specific strain of hantavirus that struck the cruise ship, the Andes strain, carries a case fatality rate that can reach up to 50%. That means if 10 people contract it, 5 of them might not survive. It's just an absolutely staggering level of lethality. And tragically, modern medicine has almost no weapons to fight it. Look at this quote. There is no approved pill. There's no injection, no magic antiviral cocktail. Doctors basically put you on a ventilator or an ECMO machine and just hope. They treat the symptoms and hope your body eventually finds its way back. And even for the lucky ones who do survive, the ordeal's far from over. Recovery is brutal. Survivors face months, sometimes literally years, of profound debilitating fatigue and persistent shortness of breath because their lungs are desperately trying to recover from that catastrophic flooding. Section 3. The Four Corners Mystery. A 1993 medical detective story. Now, to fully grasp what happened on that ship, we actually have to flash back to the American Southwest in May of 1993. That's when this pathogen first exploded into the public consciousness. Young, completely healthy people in the Four Corners region of the U.S. just started collapsing with unexplained respiratory failure. It was terrifying. By the end of that year, 27 out of 48 confirmed cases had died. Just compare the numbers here on the screen. The Spanish flu of 1918, which devastated the globe, had an estimated fatality rate of around 3%. Ebola averages about 57%. Well, this newly discovered desert illness, which they eventually named the Sinombre strain of hantavirus, had a shocking 56% fatality rate. That puts it right up there with the most lethal pathogens known to humanity. Now, what's really interesting about this is the mystery of why this sudden spillover happened. It basically comes down to the 1992 El Niño weather system. You see, unusually heavy rainfall in the desert caused this massive explosion of vegetation. All that abundant food caused the deer mouse population to absolutely skyrocket, like tenfold. And obviously more mice meant dramatically more virus out there in the environment. It was essentially a perfect storm created by climate and weather patterns, and the result was an inevitable, deadly spillover right into the human population. But here is a wildly fascinating detail. While we officially named it in 1993, it wasn't a new virus. Not at all. Researchers who were digging through old medical tissue samples found that the virus had actually been quietly killing people in the US as far back as 1959. And it goes even deeper than that. Scientists strongly suspect that hantavirus-like illnesses actually stalked soldiers in the muddy trenches of World War I and later caused over 3,000 United Nations soldiers to fall ill with these mysterious hemorrhagic fevers during the Korean War. So this ancient pathogen, it's been quietly shaping human history in the shadows for decades. Section 4, the twist. Returning to the MV Hantavirus. All right, so this brings us right back to our stranded cruise ship in 2026 and to the horrifying twist that explains exactly why global health organizations went into absolute panic mode. So the crucial point is this. The standard hantavirus, like that Sin nombre strain from 1993, it only infects you if you come into direct contact with infected rodent particles. It's what scientists call a dead end in humans. You can't pass it to your family. But the Andes strain, which is the specific variant on the MV Hantavirus, is totally different. It can actually spread from human to human through close contact, things like kissing or sharing utensils. It is the one hantavirus that doesn't need a mouse to find its next victim. And it had literally just spent a month circulating among 147 people trapped together on a ship. By the time health officials finally realized what was happening, it was too late to contain it locally. The exposure chain had already escaped the ship via international flights. As you can see here, the 69-year-old wife of the first victim had actually disembarked early and flown to Johannesburg, South Africa, where she tragically passed away from the Andes strain. Meanwhile, another passenger tested positive in Zurich, Switzerland. Suddenly, an explosive, frantic contact tracing effort was underway across 6 different continents. You had health ministries from the UK, Germany, the Netherlands, the US, all frantically tracking down former passengers, trying to stop a global spread. And look, this isn't just some isolated, free cruise ship problem. Globally, up to 100,000 people are infected with various strains of hantavirus every single year, mostly across Asia and Europe. To put that into perspective, that's a massive number of people encountering this invisible threat. And scientists are deeply worried right now because climate-driven ecosystem changes, we're talking deforestation, extreme floods, droughts, they are constantly pushing rodent populations closer and closer into human spaces. That heavily increases our daily exposure risk. Section 5. How to protect yourself. Actionable survival rules. Now that we really understand the severity of this threat, let's take back some control. I want to empower you with some incredibly clear preventative rules for dealing with rodents so you can keep yourself and your family safe. The absolute most important rule: never, and I mean never, sweep or vacuum a dusty shed, cabin, or garage where mice have been. Doing that literally launches microscopic, deadly particles directly into the air you breathe. It's the easiest way to get infected. Instead, always wet the area thoroughly with a disinfectant spray first. Let it sit, and then clean it up using gloves. If you happen to find a nest, don't touch it. Call professional pest control. If you're out camping, make sure you store your food in sealed containers. And finally, if you develop severe flu-like symptoms, especially a profound shortness of breath, a few weeks after cleaning out an old space, do not wait. Go to the ER immediately and explicitly mention your rodent exposure. Time is absolutely everything. So what does this all mean? Well, the lesson of the 1993 outbreak was to watch the mice. But the lesson of the 2026 MV Hantavirus cruise ship is that the virus, it always finds a way. It forces us to confront a pretty humbling reality. Nature is older than medicine. Some of the most dangerous pathogens on Earth were here long before us, and honestly, if we are careless, they'll be here long after us. So I'll leave you with this. Are we truly prepared for the ancient pathogens waiting in the shadows? Think about that the next time you open up a dusty old shed. If this explanator gave you a deeper understanding of this incredible threat, please share what you've learned with someone who needs to know. Stay curious, stay safe, and thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.
Click subscribe, come take a peek. It's smart, it's fun, it's cartoon clinic.